start off with the story of the professor who was standing in front of his new set of students. It was quiet and they were nervous and they were smiling and wondering what was next. And the professor said, "Will all the morons in the room please stand up?" And there was a little giggling like that and another silence, an awkward silence. And finally a young man in the back of the room stood up. And the professor said, "Sir, do you consider yourself to be a moron?" And he said, "No, not really. I just hated to see you standing there all by yourself." When it comes to being a grassroots activist, a lot of times you feel like you're standing there all by yourself. And I can tell you tonight, it's not true. I'm honored to be introduced by Institute founder John Andrews, and I'm humbled and grateful to the Independence Institute for this award. Vern Bickle was a stalwart for political liberty and personal freedom. He started the Colorado Union of Taxpayers in 1976, and he donated $65,000 when only that would help get past the 1992 Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. I publicly express the great gratitude I have for my wife Dottie for her understanding and support, and for that of my 3 daughters and their families. I was fortunate to spend 5 years as Director of Economic Affairs at Adolph Coors Company. There's always a little bit of confusion about its titles. And I want to be clear that Director of Economic Affairs did not mean that I arranged cheap dates. I was there learning, teaching, researching, writing, and speaking economics. Things like 4 magic words that I ask you to put on the back of your eyelids and never forget. Only people pay taxes. That's the kind of program we had out there to let people know. There are a few things I'd like to tell. Anticipating, and I hope this really upsets you. Anticipating my first grandchild, I wonder what Jake would owe for interest on the public debt. My tab in $1995 for that was my tab was $77. That's in the late 30s. A generation later, Sherry's was $284, and when Jake was born in 1995, it was $1,265. Projecting that one more generation, that is just taxes to pay interest on the public debt only. And Jake's child, in 25 years or so, will owe $5,700. A handy question is always compared to what? My daughter Lori called for some blog tax data. I told her the serfs in merry old England paid 1/3 of the fruits of their labors to the manorial lord for his protection and the use of his land. Serfs, 1/3. Then I gave her the statistics for the United States of America. Today we pay 41%. 25% federal, 16% state and local. Another point, 2008 per capita tax burden for public debt interest alone is $1,479. Just for interest alone, you don't even hear about it. Family of 4, almost $6,000, comprising 18% of the federal budget. That means all Americans work 65 days for nothing. No government services. It buys, to my view, only the fiscal irresponsibility of the Congress for the last 20 or 30 years. Another one, this is a Bill Clinton one. Politicians bragged about 4 years of budget surplus, 1998 to 2001. That would have reduced the public debt by $560 billion. It increased $960 billion. It was a $1.5 trillion lie. And they were all grinning about it and bragging. My popular June 2003 Independent Institute paper, A Decade of Tabor, showed the power of containing government, and thank goodness, Amendment 59 failed. Just one line to tell you the power of containing government. 10 years before the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, all job growth in Colorado was 18%, about 248,000 jobs. 10 years after, 35%. 586,000 jobs. Interestingly, between the two 10-year periods, government employment growth dropped 1% to 20%. And non-government jobs, that's the wealth-creating sector, more than doubled to 38%. With your copy of the book in brief, there is a couple of things to take home. Freedom Score 2009, and I just want to let you know what our founders went through, what they signed on to. You don't have to get it out in the dark, but at one point here it says, the Continental Congress recognized that adopting the Declaration was mutiny, treason to the Crown, and those signing would be called traitors, hanged, and executed like traitors. And on the back side, I tell what that means. You need to know what they were facing when they put their signatures there. To sign the document was to commit treason against the Crown. Do you know their punishment for high treason? It was to be hanged by the head until unconscious, then cut down and revived, disemboweled and beheaded. Cut into quarters, then each quarter boiled in oil. The remains were scattered abroad, so that the last resting place of the offender would forever remain unnamed, unhonored, and unknown. And they signed. Why? All right, how about the dumbing down of modern education? Bill Coors called it, and I think quite accurately, a contrived ignorance. What the people don't know makes them vulnerable and easily fooled. Bill's two words are magnificent. Contrived ignorance. Say them with me. Contrived ignorance. This brings forth two questions. Who contrived it? And who pulled it? How did they pull it off? And then there's a third question. What can we do about it? Thomas Jefferson said, if the people don't have enough information to wield power correctly, don't take the power from them. Give them the information. That's the answer I've worked on for 20 years on 2 projects to accomplish just that, and they're ready for prime time. Both go under the radar of modern education, from the people to the people, via email and internet. One is Project America, to teach quickly and effectively the power and majesty of America's freedom documents, the Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, and its incredibly important Bill of Rights. They're getting into every head, heart, and hand in the land. The other is for the people, finally, to get congressional spending under control with the 1% solution in the National Declaration of Fiscal Integrity. They will take about 20 minutes a month. And this was mentioned, by the way, in my issue paper issued in 1995 when Tom Tancredo was president. Concluding, I tell you about my neighbor directly across the street. Their son was killed a month ago in Iraq. We went to their Fort Logan Honorable Last Rites. On their car today, I looked at that bumper sticker that says, all gave some, my son gave all. Staff Sergeant Kenneth Main, and at the bottom, DOB, date of birth, and KIA, killed in action. If they can do what they do over there, what can we be doing over here? When I review who we are, where we came from, and where we want to go, I consider each and every person here a grassroots activist for personal freedom and political liberty, for limited government and self-governing people. Thanks for so generously supporting the Independence Institute and for all the good work you do. And thanks for the honor of this evening.
I'd like to spend just a minute to talk about what is a true American story. Every year we have what we consider to be our highest honor, the David D. Evelyn Award, and it's